Testing, testing.
Use the force, Luke.
This is the most gosh darn annoying... Never mind. Hello everyone, I am Micah Heemstra, and this is my review of The Rise of Skywalker, episode 9. Yeah, that's right. This comes from my, I'm not a super big Star Wars super fan or anything. This is on, right? Yes, it is. I've watched the Clone Wars series and some of Star Wars Rebels and stuff, so I'm probably a bigger fan than a lot of people, but I've only seen it once, and so this doesn't come from a very deep knowledge of Star Wars. So if I get any facts wrong, you're welcome to correct me. Just don't be angry, please. Okay. First of all, I just want to say, J.J. Abrams, well done. I was kind of worried about Rise of Skywalker, and I guess, it wasn't the best, but you had to follow The Last Jedi, which is like an impossible feat for any director. So personally, I think you did a pretty good job for having to come back from that. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Okay, I'm just going to start off, good, bad, I'm going to start off with the critiques. First of all, it's just too big. I find that with like a lot of directors or writers seem to think that in order to top their next movie, they need to make it bigger. Like this happened with Stranger Things, like season 2 and 3. They were good, but they didn't quite have that same personal feel as season 1. In season 1, it was just this one mysterious monster. We didn't know what it was from. But then in the next seasons, they're just like, okay, we'll have that monster, but now there's more of them. So, like, for Star Wars, we didn't need a bigger Death Star for the first movie. We didn't need a new giant Star Destroyer or whatever. We didn't need a whole new fleet of ships and a whole entire, like, army of Sith Lords or something just in this audience. We didn't need all this. See, it's not, you don't have to make it bigger. What you want to do, where am I going with this? You want to focus on the smaller, more personal stories, because we care about these characters. We care about Kylo, we care about Rey, but in the midst of all this chaos and all this like big galaxy-saving stuff, we kind of lose touch on those personal stories. You don't need to save the galaxy every single movie. Second, there's just too many twists and turns. Like the entire series, there was just so many twists and turns. You never knew what was going to happen. You were constantly on the edge of your seat, and that's kind of fun, I suppose, and yet at the same time it devalues every single twist and turn. The point of the like third act twist, which every good screenplay should have, every good movie should have, is you lead the audience on. You want the audience to think that they know what's going to happen, and then you subvert their expectations. You defy their expectations, and you flip that around, and it's like, oh my gosh, what the heck, how did that happen? That was so cool, I love this movie. That was pretty much happened every single like 5 minutes. You never knew what was going to happen. For example, that entire end scene with Rey and Kylo, it was like this dance of death. Like first they're both dead because Palpatine killed them, but then one gets up and then Kylo gets tossed in a pit, and then Rey gets up and then she like defeats Palpatine, but then she dies, but then Kylo's alive even though we thought he was dead. Of course we didn't think he was dead. And then he gets up and then he kisses her or something and gives her his life force, and then she's alive, but then he dies and then he turns into a force ghost. Like, what? There was just too many twists and turns, you know? Like, you never knew what was going to happen, and that doesn't really have a satisfying feel. And at the end, I just kind of left feeling like I'd been manipulated, I guess, or something, and it was just this weird roller coaster that was not enjoyable. A real roller coaster should just have one hill, like, pew, and that's a roller coaster. But if it just goes zigzag all over the dang place, everything just kind of loses its value, I suppose, if you understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you only really need one big twist. I mean, it's good to have like a little twist every now and then. I think you want one, at least one per act. And it doesn't have to be like an M. Night Shyamalan style twist, but you do want something in there. Along the lines of like twists and turns and stuff, I didn't really know who to support the entire movie, because it just we had all these characters. We didn't know who was the good guy, who was the bad guy. Was Kylo really the bad guy? He didn't feel like the bad guy because he's struggling, but maybe they will keep him the bad guy, which would be weird, but I don't know if I can trust Star Wars anymore. Who's good? Who's bad? Like, they burned the secret Jedi books because you're like, the Jedi Order must end. End the Jedi Order must. And the yellow lightsaber, obviously, that represented balance, but did she really bring balance, or is she still considering herself a Jedi? So that entire thing just didn't really have a resolution, and that would have been nice to have. Also, Kylo's whole arc. I really respect Adam Driver. He's like such a cool guy. I really like his the Marriage Story. If you've seen that, that is such a good movie. And honestly, if the Joker hadn't come out this year, he should have gotten the Oscar. He should get the Oscar. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I liked his arc, but it just kind of didn't really resolve nicely. He just died so unceremoniously, and he wasn't acknowledged at any point after that. Like, he died, but then Rey didn't mourn, nobody else really mourned. It didn't give a nice, solid resolution to that whole story. And that was seriously missing, because Kylo is probably one of the coolest characters in the entire saga. He was carrying the entire saga on his back, and he should have deserved a little bit more recognition for his efforts. Okay, now I'm going to get into little nitpicky details that, these come from my opinion. I could be wrong about a few of these things, but we'll see where it goes. Okay, first of all, they tried to address the Holdo maneuver, because as we all remember, in the Rise of Skywalker, they kind of made a problem for themselves by creating this Holdo maneuver. Basically, Admiral Holdo got in her ship and light speeded into this other bigger ship and blasted the entire fleet apart. And it's like, wait a second, that's like super cool. That was like the coolest visual I've ever seen. I really want to see that like 10 million times more. But why haven't they done that before? Why can't they still do that? And so they tried to address it. They have little Mary here. He's like, hey, why don't we just do a hold-up maneuver? And then the other guy's like, we can't. Those are 1 in a million. Why is it 1 in a million? Why is it 1 in a million? You never addressed that. They never actually said why it couldn't be done. They just said it can't, but they didn't explain why. They built up this huge problem for themselves, and they tried to solve it, but they didn't. Maybe it's in like extended features. Maybe it got cut out, the entire explanation why it can't be done. But they just said it can't be done and left it at that. So I think that kind of needs to be addressed. Oh, excuse me. Another thing is, I never really felt this sense of finality from this final movie in the Skywalker saga. The entire finale, the entire conclusion to episode 9 felt really rushed, and this is the last movie of the entire saga, but they didn't really tie up all those loose ends. They didn't answer all these questions, partially because they'd built up too much for themselves to answer. In order to answer all these different problems and things that have come up and all these questions, they'd have to have like another movie entirely to explain it. So they just, one, they built it up way too big, and two, they didn't really give it a nice sense of finality. And so I just kind of left feeling unsatisfied, and like, that can't really be the last movie of the Skywalker saga, is it? I mean, it should be the last movie because they really don't need any more movies for it, but I didn't feel satisfied. So, there you go. Another thing is, I don't really like that they brought Palpatine back. Like, it's cool and all, it was a fun twist, but at the end, like, if somebody who we thought was dead for like decades is alive, can we really trust that anyone's dead? I don't think so. Like, is Kylo really dead? We didn't see him as a Force ghost. Maybe he's still alive somewhere. Maybe he just teleported. I don't know. They seem to imply that he was dead, but if they implied that Palpatine was dead and he's still alive, then you never know. And so I think they kind of made a mistake there. It was cool, and I guess they didn't really have any other choice, but I didn't really like it. That's my own personal opinion. Don't hate it for me. Don't hate me for it. And of course, let's not forget the few like weird lines in there, like when Scipio found that dagger in the sand, he's just like, oh wow, the location of this very important artifact we've been looking for is just etched in this dagger that we found. Convenient, isn't it? Like, what? Come on. So I just thought that was kind of a weird plot point and writing thing. So, I mean, there's a few of those. There's actually a lot of those in Rise of Skywalker. That just stood out to me because it was just kind of really funny how stupid it was. Okay, Also, the entire trilogy were kind of led to believe that like both the Jedi and the Sith are bad, I guess, especially like in the Clone Wars and stuff. We just kind of realized that they're both like extremes. The Sith are on the extreme dark side, doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, and the Sith are all the way on the light side, doing the wrong things sometimes good things, sometimes wrong things for the right reasons. And so Rey was kind of supposed to actually bring balance to the Force. The balance was like a key point in the entire saga, and yet we never really see anybody bring true balance to the Force. Rey had the yellow lightsaber at the end, and that seemed to represent balance that she brought, but we never really saw that. So I think maybe if they had just addressed that more and shown that she actually brought true balance, that would have kind of given it a more satisfying finale end, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, final critique. At the end, we see Rey go back to Tatooine, over to where like Luke lived in his little hut or whatever, and this old lady comes and she's like, "What's your name?" And she's like, "Rey." And then she looks over and look, there's like Force Ghost Han and Force Ghost Leia, and then they just give her like a nod, and then she looks back and she's like, "Rey Skywalker." And it's like, wait, hold on, this entire movie was kind of proving that it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is what's inside you, who you are. So Rey thought she was a Palpatine. She thought that because she was a Palpatine, that meant she had to be like on the dark side and she could use lightning and she turned into a Sith. And that was a big struggle for her. But at the end, that didn't really pay off, because instead of keeping the Palpatine name and kind of making it her own and being like, you know what, I am not my grandpa, who is this evil Sith Lord. I am me. I am Rey Palpatine, and I am bringing true balance to the Force. Instead, she took the name Skywalker. Why? Why? That just reinforces the idea that your heritage does matter and does define who you are. So I just thought that was kind of a weird message to send, and a weird choice on the writing aspect of Rise of Skywalker. And now on to the praises. First of all, it was visually stunning. This movie was like amazing. It's like they took all the crazy concept art and like just like we're like, okay, we're gonna do that. You know that scene in like The Office where Michael's like dressed up as Willy Wonka and he wants awesome golden ticket ideas, but then he rejects all their ideas. It's like that, but the exact opposite, because they were like, yes, we're gonna use all your ideas. They're like, drop your craziest concept art. We want Palpatine hanging from an arm from the ceiling. We want a giant fleet of Star Destroyers. We want this big spiky throne with lightning. Get it all, people. Get it all. Yes, I love that. Yes, that's a weird. I love it. Add it. Ooh, that is a cute little Babu Frick. Let's add that too. They just added everything, and it was so freaking cool. Like, it was honestly kind of a horror thing to see Palpatine hanging from an arm, like this dead guy being pumped up with all sorts of chemicals, like, strike me down. That was great. I loved it. That was so cool. I love the visuals. This, if you have to just, even if it's not just for the story and stuff, because the story was a little weird, watch it for the visuals, because it's so cool. The CG's great. It's just, I loved it. Okay. I also really liked that Rey was able to use lightning, because, I mean, J.J. Abrams wanted to add things into Star Wars that people hadn't really seen. He wanted to add on to the Force abilities, because, I mean, that's what every movie kind of does. And when people saw Leia, like, kind of float into the ship using Force powers, they were like, what's going on? We'd never seen that before. Well, you don't really have to have seen it before, because this is kind of like they're adding on to the whole like lore and stuff. And I thought it was pretty cool to see Rey use lightning. It's not just a Sith thing. It kind of shows the power and chaos and energy within her, and she'll probably learn to control that. Or maybe it's gone now that she's kind of taking control of herself and she's not as chaotic. But I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. I also really liked that you got to go to like the crashed Death Star. That was just, first of all, it looked awesome. There was just this massive Death Star just sunk in the middle of this ocean, and then they have to take these little gliders over to it, and that was just like, wow. It's like really cool. And then she like climbs inside, and then there's like Palpatine's throne from the earlier movies, and it's like, oh my gosh, I remember that. I remember Palpatine sitting there. That was really cool. So yeah, that was just pretty fun. Anyway, that concludes my review of The Rise of Skywalker. Overall, I'd give it 3 stars. I thought it was great having to come after Rise of The Last Jedi. It wasn't a perfect movie, and it kind of wasn't very satisfying, as most of my points addressed. But overall, it had fantastic visuals, great actors, great cast, and I just thought it was a really fun movie to watch. So, I mean, I might even buy it when it hits the discount cart at Walmart. If you want to read some more reviews of mine, you can go ahead and follow me on letterboxd. That is at Micah Heemstra with just one H. I'll put the link down in the description so you can check it out. So anyway, thank you for watching, and you will subscribe. You will press the like button. You will smash that notification bell. I'm sorry, that was really cringy. I regret everything. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next video.